So $2.4 million. That was the average selling price of a detached home in Greater Vancouver last month. That's according to statistics released yesterday. It is an all-time high for the region. But why is it happening in spite of interest rate hikes? And what is on the radar for political action going forward to do something about the inflated house prices? Well, our municipal affairs reporter Justin McElroy is here to try to break it all down with us. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Stephen.
I'm frankly surprised by that, but we are talking about detached homes here, just to be clear.
Yeah, detached homes, and not just for the city of Vancouver, but for the entire Greater Vancouver area. So that includes Richmond, it includes the Tri-Cities, it includes the North Shore, it includes Maple Ridge. It's a big area. All of it, $2.4 million, the average selling price. On the west side of Vancouver, the median selling price was $4 million. $4 million for the entire west side. So it's an amount that we've never seen before. I know that numbers at this point shouldn't shock us, but still, you're shaking your head. It is a new high. And some people sometimes say, why focus on detached homes instead of condos or townhomes? And we do as well. And those didn't set a record this last month. But keep in mind, detached homes take up by far the highest amount of land in our region. And if they're out of reach for everyone who doesn't have a cool $2.4 million available, or, if you want to get particular $400,000, $500,000 for a down payment, if they're out of reach, it creates pressure points everywhere else in the market as well, both in terms of not being in Greater Vancouver and also the type of home you could putting downward pressure. So it is a benchmark that is worth looking at, and it's a benchmark that hit a record high last month.
In Vancouver, I wonder about things like the Broadway plan perhaps inflating the cost of land. So what looks like a modest single-family home, the land has gone up because it is within the Broadway plan corridor and could be, an apartment building.
And these are always potentials, but in the case of the Broadway plan, keep in mind the vast majority of that is townhomes and condos already,
You're right? Yeah.
So something's happening here. It's not the Broadway plan, though.
Interest rates have doubled in the last year, and a lot of people, especially those with variable mortgages, are having a hard time holding on to their homes. And in spite of all of that, these detached home prices went up. Why?
Yeah, it's a good question, something people have been trying to wrap their head around because it flies in the face of what you would normally think about in terms of the demand going down. But we asked Alexander Gold, a mortgage specialist with BMO Financial Group, about this, and he said it's important to keep in mind what sort of people are still able to buy when house prices are this high to begin with, and then you add interest rate hikes on top of that.
The amount of qualified buyers is very limited at the moment with these restrictive interest rates. Who you're seeing that's still active in the buying pool, it's largely end users. It's couples that have previously owned real estate and they're now selling and upsizing or selling and downsizing. And so what we're seeing is that they're taking out a lot of equity from those sales and putting it towards the new home.
So people on the high end with money, with equity, still able to be in the market, still able to push things up. On the low end, you're seeing much slower sales for smaller homes as well, for people that might ordinarily be trying to get in the market. And so therefore, you're seeing this pump up over the last 2-3 months. The average price has risen about $400,000 or so.
Wow. And of course, we always hear about the problem is we don't have enough supply. But, if you look around, I guess, Vancouver and all of Metro Vancouver, there's a lot under construction. There's a lot of new housing out there. If you take a look at, Cambie Street, King Edward Street here in the city and even the sort of, Main and First Avenue area, it's so why is that not turning into? It doesn't seem that supply and demand works here.
Well, I think that's always been the great political debate, certainly, and it's important to keep in mind as well that for supply, it takes a long time for these units to get on board. And what people have argued on the pro-supply side is because we had a 25-30 year imbalance of building up the amount of supply, 4 or 5 years of of approving more permits isn't going to reverse that around in a day. That's the contention, at least, of Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver Director of Economics Andrew Leese, who said it honestly caught them by surprise, this jump over the last 2 months, but he argues it's part of this age-old dilemma in Vancouver.
It's a tough, story to square in some ways, and it really depends what market you're talking about. But Vancouver is a bit of a unique market in some ways, and one of the things that's been kind of plaguing our market for a long time, this is not a new issue that we're struggling with, is low inventory. We really just don't have a lot of resale product on the market at any given point in time. It's near historical lows, and it's been there for quite a while that way. So what happens is, even if rates are high, and you have, some buyers come out of the woodwork to go shopping for a house, well, they're met with not a lot of choices on the market.
Of course, the longer that these prices seem sky high, the amount of people that will potentially listen from a political lens on that supply argument may go down, which will be interesting to watch in future years.
And the provincial government has said it's going to help work on supply as well. Is it actually doing anything?
Well, they have new legislation coming out this fall, including a flipping tax and new regulations on municipalities that they've been promising for a year now in terms of ensuring that they meet certain supply targets. Vancouver has a missing middle motion coming up that would allow up to 6 units in large areas of residential zoning in the city. Burnaby's creating a housing authority this fall in order to try and build more supply as well. But there's nothing giant on the agenda, like, say, the empty homes tax or 20% tax on foreign buyers like we saw in 2016, 2017, 2018, that could quickly change the needle in terms of local provincial policy when you look at the larger, broader economic trends out there.
There are, though, a couple of silver linings that you found in some of the data.
I mean, silver linings might be pushing it a little bit, given the context that we're on. But yeah, I mean,
linings.
We're talking about homes in Greater Vancouver, and they are up 18% in the last year in terms of the average selling price. But Greater Victoria homes and condos in the Greater Victoria region just up around 6%, close to inflation. Fraser Valley condos and townhomes around 3% increase in the last year. That's below inflation. Greater Vancouver condos up just 2%. Victoria townhomes have decreased 1%. And again, we're talking percentages here, not just raw dollars. So that would seem to support what Gold said a little bit in terms of the only people really being active in the market and pushing upward pressure up at the highest homes in the biggest area of BC. That being said, when you consider that an average condo price in Greater Vancouver is still around $800,000 right now, your mileage may vary on how much that's a silver lining.
Okay. And so where does that leave us then? I mean, for both people who are looking at the market right now, and for politicians who are trying to make choices on what to do over the next few months.
Well, we saw with the Bank of Canada today holding the rates at 5%, which, if a month ago might have been a surprise to some people. It is a dynamic situation right now. There's not a heck of a lot of people putting fierce bets one way or the other on what's going to happen, especially when you see more and more analysts looking at Canada's broader housing market, not just Vancouver's, and saying, there's something pretty concerning here. We asked Gold what advice he would have for people thinking about getting into the market right now. Here is what he said.
I would think long and hard about what you're purchasing and really make sure it checks your boxes in terms of what you need in a home. I would say to first-time buyers or to home buyers, not to be afraid to buy, but rather take your time, consider your options, make sure that the financing costs and the monthly payments are something that you're comfortable with paying. So buy within your means, buy within your affordability. Don't necessarily buy at the very top end of your affordability.
A fair bit of reticence and caution in those statements. Certainly the mood among lots of housing experts in the field right now.
Justin McElroy, thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephen.